so I'm going to start these with you. I'm going to probably show you the full question B and just the beginning of A. When you're looking at question A, would it be easier to eliminate the x's or the y's? Probably the, which one?
The y.
The y, because?
Because it's already a negative.
Yeah, opposite signs are already there, right? So if you want to eliminate, probably the easiest ones would be the y's. You could have easily eliminated the x's, and that's absolutely fine as well. Okay, so if I'm going to cancel out the y's, in order to eliminate, the biggest one is a 5, so to cancel out the 5, I have to have a negative 5 over here. Now this is just a 1, so in order to make this negative 1 turn into a negative 5, I'm going to multiply the entire equation by 5. So 5 times the first term, 5 times the y's, 5 times the 1. My new equation is going to be 5x minus 5y equals 5. I'm going to copy out my equation 1 on top. And I'm going to check the two things that we make mistakes on. What are they?
Opposite sign.
Opposite signs, positive, negative, and did we multiply all the way through? Yes, we did. So we're going to add these together. The 5's will cancel. 5 plus 2 is 7 x's. 16 plus 5 is 21. I would continue by dividing by 7, finding the x value, and substituting it back into one of the equations. I would have probably picked this one, x minus y equals 1, because it's the simplest one to solve for y with. The second question I'm going to show you from start to finish, because it's a little bit trickier. Just going to move the answer up here somewhere. So if I want to eliminate, the x's and y's in this question are pretty much equal. We have positive 2 and positive 3, or negative 3 and negative 2. Hands up if you eliminated the x's. Review. Who used the y's? It's very close, but I'll do the y's, most of you did. What would make them cancel?
You
Multiply to get to what?
6.
Excuse me. If this were 6y, this would have to be? Good. So equation 1, I want to multiply negative 3 by what to get to positive 6? Good. And the second one by positive 3. So I'm just going to multiply the entire equation. Remember, you're doing it to the whole thing. So minus 2, and minus 2 get multiplied by each of those terms. Positive 3 times the entire second equation. I end up with negative 4x plus 6y equals negative 2. Just because I did it this way right now doesn't mean that's the only way to do this. If you end up with the same answer for your x's, that means you did it right. So the things I have to check, did I multiply all the way through? That negative 18 means I multiplied the 3 by the negative 6. I have to be careful that I did it the whole way through. These are also opposite signs, so that will cancel out. 9 plus negative 4 is 5 x's. Negative 2 minus 18 more is negative 20. So when I divide by 5, x equals negative 4. You could have got an answer of negative 4 many different ways. So if you got that answer and you did it a different way, that's totally fine. There we go. So once I have the x value, I'm going to substitute x equals negative 4 into one of the equations. Honestly, they're both not very good. Right? It's unfortunate. There's no really better choice here. Just going to pick the first one. They both have a negative y value. They've got coefficients of more than 1. So we're just going to have to work with it. 2x minus 3y equals 1 is the first equation. I'm going to make x equal to negative 4 because that's the answer I just solved for. Now if I want to find the y, where do I have to move it to? Either move it to the right or divide by the negative number at the end. They're both okay. So 2 times negative 4 is negative 8. I'm going to subtract the 1 because I'm moving it to the left, equals 3y. So 3y equals negative 9, which means y is negative 3. If you left your y on the left-hand side, that's okay. Just make sure you divide it properly by the negative number. Therefore, the POI is negative 4, comma, negative 3. Any questions about elimination? last topic in this unit is word problem questions, and we did a bunch of them. You can probably remember 4 or 5 different types at least of word questions that we did. We're going to talk about how we solve a word problem question. We probably won't get to the example, but I'll give you the basic idea of it so you can go back and look at it tonight. What's the first step to solving a word problem question? Yep, Sam?
Write out like a let this represent this.
Write out a let statement. Let X represent something, right? Where do you look in order to figure out what your let statement should say?
The end of the question.
Yes. Look at the end of the question to see what you should write in your let statements. So, here, put some notes in. You're going to look at the end of the question. At the end of the question to see what the let statement should represent. When you're figuring out your let statements, remember that you need to use let statements for what you want to find, whatever you don't know. So ask yourself, what do I need to find? Once you figure out what you're trying to solve for, that's what your let statements are going to represent. Also remember that your let statements need to be very, very specific. So let X represent the number of, the amount of, the cost of. What is the other thing I will take off a half a mark for? Yes, good memory. So include your units. So kilometers, dollars, etc. So include units also in your let statements. After you write your let statements, what comes next? The numbers. Where do the numbers go? Do they go in let statements? In equations, yeah. So first step, let statements. Second step is making your equations. So when we're creating equations, we need to remember that each equation has 2 variables. Right? Each equation should include an x and a y. So each has 2 variables. How many times do we use a number from the question? Once. The only exception is in that mixture question. So only use each number once, except the mixture questions that has one little exception that we'll see. I know. There we go. Once we do equations, what comes next? Solve. Good. How do we solve?
That's the question.
That is the question. How would we solve anything in this unit?
With
Substitution
math.
or elimination. Okay? So use one of the 2 methods that we've learned. So use substitution or elimination. Pick the easier one. Don't make your life difficult.
Substitution.
Not always easier, right? We use substitution if there's an x equals or y equals equation. For example, an equation about cost. We use elimination if we are looking at so many adult tickets plus so many student tickets equals a number, right? The x's and the y's are together. Right, you gotta learn both. And then finally make a conclusion. Your conclusion needs to be relevant. It needs to have to do with the question, about the story. Don't say therefore the POI is, because you won't get any marks for that. Okay? It has to be about the story. We sold however many adult tickets and student tickets, for example. Now, we did a lot of different types of questions. We won't have time today to go over all the types of questions, obviously. That's one example that you could look at. But I would like you to make note of the fact that there are different types of word problem questions. And they're in your notes. You need to find your Unit 1 workbook.
Found it.
There are examples, and they're titled by the type of question there are. There's questions that have equations by sentence, right? Those are the ones with repeated situations. So I go to the store today, and then I go to the store again tomorrow. Right? I rent a car this week, I rent a car again next week. So if we have a repeated situation, that's the kind of question, that's the kind of question that you would use a bi-sentence equation, one equation for each sentence. We also have the ticket types questions
Like this.
by idea, right? Like this one, right? When an example could be the ticket sales,
Or the minimum hours.
right? Where there's numbers all over the question. There's random numbers everywhere in a bunch of different sentences. Group them by idea. Okay. We have comparison. Remember my piles that you guys made fun of me for?
Yes. No.
We have a
Wait.
pile. There are twice the number of boys as there are girls in this class. These are all the names of the
Ratios.
boys. These are all the names of the girls. How do we make them equal? By multiplying one of them by 2, right? That kind of thing. Use that to help you. Right? Twice as many,
Wait a minute.
etc.
Instead of multiplying the small one by 5, could we take away
You
5, the bigger one?
You could divide, but dividing makes a fraction, which makes it messy, right?
Instead of adding 5, could you take
You
away
can
5?
subtract, absolutely, for sure. Okay. Then we have the specific types. We've got investing money.
Oh yeah, that one's where you like,
We have distance and time with you and nature.
no.
And we have the mixtures questions.
No.
So we've gone over examples of all of those. Remember that when we did the investing questions, you guys liked the diagram. Money goes into 2 accounts. We've got X and Y. Remember this?
Yeah.
Right? And then we made money. This is your money in, and this is your money out. Right? For the distance time questions, we
There's a
had
graph.
a plus and a minus. Yep. The current is the distance time. You're paddling, you're rowing a boat, and the current's dragging you backwards or forward. One of these equations is where you go with nature. You add them together. And the other one is where you go against nature, and nature takes away from your speed.
Like,
And then we have mixture questions. One about the milliliters and one about the percent.
yeah, I hated those.
You need to study them tonight. Your homework, this question here, and anything in this section that's not finished right now, and the yellow sheet, that mango colored sheet, everything from chapter 1 in the table. If it's not already finished, that's due for tomorrow. Yeah. Do I have any more of those yellow sheets? I do. If you lose your yellow sheet, it's online. It's posted online. Okay? So, take a look at that. If you're already done, those yellow sheet questions, start on analytic geometry. That's tomorrow. Okay? The answer for this question, for when you try it, is 445 adults. 445 adults. That's the answer.
That's a lot of adults.
It is.
Do these adults know that yet?
So make sure you do those questions.
Did you tell the adults?
Cheers up, please, folks. Thank you.